Well, we're joined now by Roger Smith, a lawyer and the Director of Justice, a campaign organisation which has been involved with Abu Qatada's case, and by Douglas Murray, who's an author and Associate Director with the democracy campaign group, the Henry Jackson Society. Are you pleased there's this dangerous man walking the streets?
No, and I don't act for Abu Qatada or have a brief particularly for Abu Qatada, but what should happen to him is due process, and there are 2 points. One, if he is as dangerous as he's said, and we've just been told, then he's committed offences in this country and he should be charged in the normal way for that. He never has been. And secondly, the real person who should also be here is Jordan. There is a real problem because the justice system of Jordan is not reliable.
He's been convicted abroad, hasn't he?
He's been convicted twice in Jordan on the basis of evidence by 2 people who retracted it and said that they had originally given their evidence under the influence of torture.
So you think we should just take a risk and let this bloke wander around this country, do
I think there's a clash between our seeing the world as national states that have entire national control over what happens and international norms of human rights. And I think that he should be dealt with according to the norms of human rights.
What do you think should happen to him?
I think that he should be returned to Jordan tomorrow.
Despite the fact that he might face trial, presumably he could face some risk himself, but he could face trial in which evidence is produced that was obtained under torture.
No, he won't face risk himself. This country, at considerable expense and considerable amount of time under the Labour government, sought a memorandum of understanding with Jordan that he would not be in any way mistreated were he to be tried there. It was only in its judgment last month the European Court of Human Rights for the first time cited Article 6 on the right to a fair trial issue, claiming that it was the issue of whether or not people in the trial of Abu Qatada in Jordan might have been themselves mistreated, that we're in this mess. We are in this mess because the European Court of Human Rights kept on moving the goalposts. For 10 years now it's been moving the goalposts. It is not, I would add, unprecedented for European states to simply ignore the European Court. It cannot in any way enforce its judgments. There is no reason why we can't follow what Italy has done and France has done and simply ignore the judgment of the court. The day afterwards, there would be no doubt about it, the European Court would say in a strongly worded statement that they condemned the British government for doing this. But we could simply do what as I say, our allies have done on the continent and ignore the court.
Well, we actually believe in due process and give the government its due. It does too. But the issue here is torture. And the issue is, what position do we as the United Kingdom take about torture?
No, this is a ruling of the European Court of Human Rights. Why don't we just ignore it?
Because we've signed up to the European Convention.
Well, so have all these other countries.
We are the only country now in Europe that so completely runs by the letter of the law of the European Court. The European Court has shown repeatedly that in cases of national security, it cannot have a country like this, or France, or any other country's best interests at heart. It is very good at seeing the letter of its own law pursued to the utmost, as it is in this case. As it is in making sure that Abu Qatada, who came to Britain illegally in 1993 on a forged UAE passport, is given every right that the European Court can invent year after year, changing the goalposts. It is very good at that. What it is not good at doing is securing, through its judgments, genuinely a fair process, fair trial, fair process to, apart from anything else, ensure that people in Britain do not have a known extremist, a known hate-monger, somebody who has made a career, as the SIAC judgment said in 2007, who has such reach in his network that it said, the SIAC said his reach was incalculable. Yet they said that in 2007, and now because of the European Court in 2012, so the man is going to walk the streets.
You don't think we need to worry about due process and collecting proper evidence?
I certainly think we do, and this country has done everything it could to go through every imaginable part of that due process. It has gone repeated, it has gone to appeal in the Lords, it has gone to every court in this land, it has gone through SIAC, it has gone to everything. The only thing is that the European Court consistently has moved the goalposts over recent years, and only last month, for the first time, used Article 6, this new part that the issue was not whether he himself was mistreated if he went back to Jordan to face trial as he should, but whether any evidence used against him had come from mistreatment.
Are you not the slightest bit uncomfortable about this country abiding by the rules of this court, the judgments of foreign judges, to protect a man who comes to this country and advocates killing people?
I don't think this is an easy case, and I don't think you make an easy judgment. What the European Court has done is consistently drawn a bright line around torture and say Article 3 of the Convention prevents it and prevents complicity with it. And it has extended the meaning of that, so that you cannot throw someone back to another country where there is a reasonable chance they'll be tortured. And I think that's right. And it isn't true to say that it isn't true that we are the only country that complies with it. Sweden, the whole Scandinavia, the countries of the Council of
Do you
Europe
accept there are
comply
many
with European
countries supposedly signed up to this court which don't abide by its rulings?
But the major offenders, repeat offenders, are Russia and Turkey. I would like to be a member of a country, citizen of a country, which is different from that, and which accepts the due process. If we signed up to the court, we should obey it.
Neither France nor Italy are barbaric, backward countries that don't respect the rule of law. They respect the rule of law, but they also respect the fact that Italian citizens and French citizens have the right not to have people like Abu Qatada
Why
walking
don't we
in their
just
midst.
leave this court if it's such a problem?
Well, that's one of the options. If the coalition government were to do what David Cameron said before the election he would like to do and remove ourselves from the convention, then we could remove ourselves from the jurisdiction of the court. That's one option. Another is simply, as I say, when they come up with completely bonkers judgments, as they have done repeatedly with Qatada, to ignore them. And another is to do what we're currently doing, which is to be very British about it, follow the complete letter of the law to an extent that no other country does, do what our main allies on the continent do not.
It's not no other country, it's
It is.
Scandinavian countries.
No other country faced with the case of an Abu Qatada-like figure has gone to this length to protect them. No other country has gone that far. As I say, Italy and France are not barbaric, backward countries. If they can ignore the European Court and get a verbal slap on the wrist that must be very unpleasant, then we could do the same thing. And the day afterwards, Abu Qatada would be facing trial and justice in Jordan, and a memorandum of understanding would mean he would not have faced any mistreatment himself, and this country could make sure we didn't have this man walking in our midst, who should never have been here in the first place.
I think it's madness to say we should leave the Council of Europe. That would be to join Belarus. If you go from Lisbon to Vladivostok and flying all the way, only if you go with Belarus do you leave the countries of the Council of Europe. It's madness to say we're out of the Council of Europe. In foreign policy terms, a disaster. We go around the world bringing human rights, or saying we are, sometimes at the point of a gun. And it's ridiculous to say that we should be part of it. It's ridiculous also to say we shouldn't follow decisions of the court.
All right, thank you both very much.